are entering the hardest time
Teenagers
of
are
the next few
multiple
months are
black
also
Another 709,000 Americans filed for unemployment benefits
The
last
truth of the matter is,
for
we
over
need God, we need
4,500
each other.
years.
Do you ever feel the urge to stand up for something, but find yourself not doing it? You stop because you realize if you stand up for that thing, you might cause a fight, or people will treat you differently because of what you stood for? Do you ever feel like no matter what, you're in a lose-lose situation? It's easy in the world we live in to not feel this way. It can feel intimidating to stand up for the things we believe in because we might be fearful of what others will say or think about us, or even worse, we might lose something. A lot of times we can feel as though we have to choose a side, us versus them, this group or that group. You're in, you're out. These decisions can make us not want to choose a response, to not use our voice, and we can find ourselves making decisions based on our fear or comfort. Lately, it feels as though every response we give can cause someone somewhere to be upset or quick to fight with us on why we're wrong. Standing up for what we believe in today can feel so exhausting, but also defeating. Why is it that anything we stand for either feels like we're fighting someone else or we're losing something? What if I told you there's another way? What if I told you we could learn a different response in what we believe, and the answer can be found through the birth of Jesus and the wise men? When most of us think of the wise men and Jesus, we think of the gifts they brought. But I want us to look just a little bit closer to their story. When we do, we see more to the wise men than bringing gifts. Here's what you need to know about the wise men. They were, well, wise. Okay, no, for real. They were considered wise, they were respected. These were men who did not believe in God. They leaned on their knowledge and studied things like the stars. They were also referred to as magi, but most of us know them as the wise men. What is so cool about these wise men is that even though they didn't believe in God, God used what they did study, the stars, to speak to them. Man, I just love how God finds us even when we're not looking for him. Because God used a star to speak to them, they went out to find Jesus. And here's what happened. In Matthew 2:1-12, it tells us, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem. And they asked, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw the star when it rose, and we have come to worship him." Now when King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. When he had called together all the people's chief priests and teachers of the law, he asked, "Where is the Messiah was to be born?" "In Bethlehem in Judea," they replied, "for this is what the prophet has written. But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judea, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people, Israel." Then Herod called to the Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report back to me, so that I too may go and worship him." After they had heard the king, they went on their way, and the star they had seen when it rose ahead of them, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. Then they opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. Here is what is happening in what we just read. The Magi, or the wise men, knew where Jesus was going to be born, the King of the Jews, because it was revealed to them through a star. Herod, now we're going to get to him in a moment, warned the Magi to tell him where and when, and after they go and find him, to report back to Herod. The Magi, after seeing Jesus, bowed down and they worshiped him. They chose to return to their country by another route and to not go back to report to Herod. Did you guys catch that? They chose not to go back to Herod. The Magi, after seeing Jesus, being in his presence, were confident in who he was. They didn't need anything else to prove this to him. They followed what they knew, a star, but they found something unexpected. It's because of this they chose a different way to respond. By choosing to go home a different route, not returning to report to Herod, this spoke volumes. Herod was the ruler at the time, and he feared that Jesus, being a king, would cause him to lose his power. Fear drove Herod's response, but love drove the Magi's response. Herod was powerful, and we see this in Matthew 2:16. When Herod realized that he had been outwitted by the Magi, he was furious, and he gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity who were under 2 years old and under, in accordance with the time he had learned from the Magi. Herod's fear drove him to a response to kill. He didn't want to lose his power or his control. The Magi knew how powerful Herod was, but they were open to God. They were warned in a dream to not go back to Herod. They could have fear drive them to return to Herod. Even knowing the truth of who Jesus was, they could have lied to Herod, they could have fought Herod, they could have joined Herod and been a part of bringing Jesus to Herod. There are so many things the Magi could have done, just based on their fears and comforts. But they chose another way. They chose a response driven by love. This is what an encounter with Jesus will do. It will give us the courage and the confidence to choose to live a radical life through our actions that gives away a radical love. The Magi spoke truth to power through their actions. They didn't speak truth by taking away Herod's power, or fighting him, or confronting him, or taking their own voice or power away. They didn't have to crush and break Herod. No. They encountered love and chose through their response to speak truth to power. What they did spoke louder than any fighting or screaming could do. They found another way, a way that allowed them to use their voice, speak truth. They said who Jesus was and didn't choose a way that said they were going to fight Herod or stand with Herod. They chose a way that said, here is the truth, and I refuse to be a part of anything else. This is a nonviolence response. This is a response of love. This was their action, speaking truth to power, and the power for them, Herod. Guys, this is our other way too. We can let fear and comfort drive us, or we can let an encounter with Jesus change us, give us the courage and confidence to speak truth to power. People with power in your life can look so different. It could be a coach, a teacher, a leader, your family, or even your friends. It's in our actions that people will either see love or hate, the world or Jesus. But who do you want others to see through your actions? It doesn't have to be us versus them. No, I actually don't believe that's what Jesus is inviting us into. He's inviting us into a response that is above this side or that side. He is inviting us to a kingdom way. What if the next time you wanted to speak truth to power through your actions, it wasn't about fighting to be right. It wasn't you against the other person, but a gentle response that demonstrates love, mercy, and grace. What if it wasn't shouting or fighting or canceling people out, but demonstrating a stillness and a confidence and just showing up? That's the beauty of the Magi story. They showed up, they knew their truth, they spoke it without ever fighting, yelling, or taking something away from someone. This is the way Jesus teaches us. We are called to speak truth, but more importantly, we are called to do it in a way that demonstrates the love of Jesus and not the hate of this world. Will your actions love people towards Jesus or away from him? I have to ask myself this a lot. It's so easy to get caught up in my own fears and comforts, and I can justify my actions by being right. I can even have lots of people agree with me and tell me that my actions were right and just, that I'm standing on the right side, and Jesus would agree with me in my actions, and they were necessary because the other group or person or their view is wrong. But if I'm going to be vulnerable with you today, I can tell you a lot of times I chose fear and comfort, not love, and by doing so, I made Jesus cloudy to those around me. I believe the Magi not going back to Herod, it told others there was something different about Jesus, that even the Magi were changed, that Magi didn't respond the way others expected, especially Herod. But by doing so, they demonstrated another way to respond, another way to speak truth to power, a way for people to love Jesus and be towards him and not away from him. See, the story was so much more than the gifts that brought Jesus. If you stop to look around the world we live in, we can see so many responses that are about taking something away from someone, shouting, being right. You guys, I know the generation you're watching right now, has not given you the best example to deal with conflict. You've been taught if you just yell louder, if you get more angry, if you tweet this, if you post this and tell the whole world how stupid that person is, if I just fill in the blank. What the world desperately needs is for you and people who follow Jesus to show another way, to respond by speaking truth to power, and for our actions in doing so to give away love, not hate. My prayer is that we can learn from your generation and how to do this right. In a moment, I'm going to pray over you. Before I do, you received a Post-it note when you came in. We're going to sit for a moment. There's going to be a song that's going to be played. And while this song is being played, I just want you to spend time with God. Where is he asking you to speak truth to power? Let him speak to you. Write it down and put it on your Post-it note. Your host will give more instructions, but just spend this time sitting in God's presence. Let the words of the song wash over you and find love through Jesus so you can speak truth to power and show the world what love can do. Will you pray with me? God, I'm just so thankful for the example of the Magi. These were people who didn't even know you, but they found you because you found them. God, I just love their nonviolence response. I love how they spoke truth to power. And God, my prayer right now for every person that's watching this in this moment, and I'm praying this over myself, that we may pick up this other way, that we can find ways to speak truth to power where we're not taking things from others, but we're pointing the world back to you. God, I pray that we just find our courage and our strength through you, and that we show the world what love can really do. We pray these things in your Son's name. Amen.